Imagine a killer so brazen they stayed in your home for days after the murders, eating your food, stoking your fire, feeding your livestock. This is Hinterkaifeck, grainy reenactment of footsteps on attic floorboards. On March 1922, Andreas Gruber awoke before dawn at his isolated farmhouse in the rolling hills of Bavaria. Outside, a fresh blanket of snow muffled sound and covered the tracks of two men who had arrived late the evening before. Inside, all was quiet except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. The 60-year-old farmer stretched, took a moment to pray, then descended the stairs to begin his chores. Overlays of fresh snow trails leading to a broken lock. But something was off. At the foot of the stairs, he found a small, muddy footprint. It wasn't his wife's or one of his 6 children's, and none of them had been outside in the morning cold. What's more, Andreas noticed a newspaper lying where it didn't belong. He picked it up. It was from that evening, but its edges were crumpled, suggesting it had been folded for some time. Finally, he turned toward the cellar door. But when he reached for the latch, he felt a jolt. The lock had been broken. Candle-lit shots of a lone lantern swinging in an empty room. Moments later, he heard it again, the distinct thud of footsteps on the attic floor above his head. His wife and children slept soundly upstairs. Surely it was just a mouse. Still, unease gnawed at him. As he made his way through the dark, dank cellar, the only illumination coming from the single lantern hanging overhead, he could have sworn he saw something strange slink into the shadows. Then, as he stepped outside into the crisp air, he spotted a second set of footprints in the soft earth. Whoever had come in the night before had left again, but not before stepping into the privy. There, scrunched between the planks of the outhouse floor, was a length of rope. It wasn't one of theirs. He felt a chill crawl up his spine. None of this made sense, and yet there was no sign of a struggle, no indication of foul play. So he dismissed it, told himself it was just a child playing. He fed the chickens, gathered the eggs, milked the cow. Soon enough, daylight chased away the shadows, revealing nothing more out of place than a wayward broom leaning against the wall. Yet the uneasiness lingered. Overlays of fresh snow trails leading to a broken lock. All day, Andreas and his family went about their chores, speaking little and working faster than usual. The younger grubs played quietly, their merriment muted. Dinner that evening consisted of thick soup and rye bread. Afterward, they gathered around the kerosene lamp, each lost in thought, listening intently to the wind howling outside. A storm was coming, but before anyone drifted off to bed, there was a commotion from above. Heavy footsteps thundered on the attic floor. This time, no one pretended to ignore it. Andreas rose with a mattock in hand, ready to confront whatever threat had invaded their home. He crept toward the attic stairs, his lantern held high, followed closely by his eldest son. They ascended slowly, straining to hear above the wind. Then they stopped dead in their tracks. From the other side of the landing came the unmistakable scraping of metal on wood. In the flickering glow, they saw a pair of feet. A man stood silhouetted in the attic doorway, illuminated by a faint light spilling out from beneath the door jamb. When he spoke, his voice was low and raspy. "It's just me," he said, "just me." Without another word, Andreas swung the mattock, catching the intruder full in the face. He staggered back, clutching his bleeding forehead. That's when Andreas saw the lantern in his hands, the one he'd left downstairs. With a guttural scream, he struck again and again until the mattock shattered, sending splinters flying everywhere, overlays of fresh snow trails leading to a broken lock. Gasping for breath, Andreas stumbled down the stairs and back into the safety of the lantern light. His son stood frozen, his eyes wide with terror. They had killed someone, but who? Maybe a robber or a vagrant who'd snuck into the house to hide from the storm. And yet, as they climbed back into the attic, they found not a wounded intruder, but a dead body, sprawled on the floor beneath the open doorway, crumpled into a fetal position, but there was no blood, no wound. And then they noticed the shovel leaning against the far wall, identical to the one Andreas had used. They descended into the cellar, discovering 2 more bodies hidden in the corner. Their lanterns revealed glassy eyes staring sightlessly ahead, twisted faces frozen in mid-scream. Each had been struck several times with the same mattock. But why? For what purpose? One by one, they dragged the corpses out into the cold, setting them down in front of the house, where the icy ground soon painted their lifeless faces even paler. By the time the sun began its slow descent, 6 grub family members lay dead, stacked neatly in the yard like cordwood. In the days that followed, the neighbors wondered why it had taken the family so long to be discovered. Why hadn't someone noticed the bodies strewn across the farm? The answer came during one of the many searches that followed. One of the cows nudged open the door to the grub family kitchen and pawed at the floor. Scratched and dented, it was clear that someone had been standing right in the middle of the room for a long time. Someone who ate food from the table and left the dishes piled on the floor. Someone who stoked the fire and hung a pot over the flames. Someone who fed the animals and walked among the living, all while surrounded by the dead. Still, for all the chaos in the quiet countryside that March, it would be nearly 3 weeks before the authorities learned the name of the monster who lived among them. They investigated countless leads, every petty criminal, every drifter, every man who bore a grudge against the family. Even the servants were questioned, desperate attempts to reconstruct the events of that fateful night. In the absence of physical evidence, they relied on witness testimony, which proved as murky as the fog that rolled in over the hills. Some said they'd seen a gaunt, dark-haired man skulking near the farm in the days leading up to the massacre. Others claimed to have witnessed a pair of shadowy figures slipping through the woods behind the house. Some said they'd seen a carriage speeding away from the scene that night, though no horse-drawn carriage had been seen on the road for months. All agreed, however, on one detail: a lantern. One flickered in the window of the farmhouse, guiding the killer inside. Then it was extinguished, along with the lives of the entire grub family. A century has passed, but few answers have emerged from the cold case files. Today we revisit the haunting grounds of Hinterkaifeck, where the echoes of tragedy linger and ghostly rumors still whisper through the trees. Over the course of several weeks in early 1922, 6 members of the Gruber family were systematically murdered on their secluded farm in the remote Bavarian village of Hinterkaifeck, meaning back or rear courtyard. The crime not only shocked the close-knit community, but continues to baffle forensic experts and armchair detectives alike. But how does one make sense of a crime so brutal, so deliberate, so senseless? Our research directive is threefold. First, we examine original police files and autopsy reports to unearth new insights and forgotten details. Second, we interview historians on Bavarian folklore and haunted farm legends to learn whether supernatural elements might shed light on the case. And third, we seek out descendants of local witnesses to track down first-hand accounts of what really happened that night. In addition, we analyze architectural layouts to determine if there were possible hiding spots on the farm. Could the killer have remained undetected in plain sight, lurking in an outbuilding or secret compartment? And if so, where? Which buildings would have provided adequate hiding places? And how did the killers sustain themselves without being seen? What did the forensic evidence reveal? Was there a connection between the victims and the killer? And what led to their untimely demise? We examine the evidence to find out. You've listened to the audio drama. Now it's time to use your eyes. Take a good look at these images. Let's start at the top of the house. What do you notice? Anything out of place? Check out that corner again. Do you see it now? The loose floorboard barely concealing a cavity behind the wall. In the event of an emergency, the family would pull it open to reveal a hollow space large enough to fit a person, complete with air holes and a chimney. In the attic, it would have been easy to hide, easier still to disappear. And that's just the beginning, because this is the real story of Hinterkaifeck. Here at Midnight Verdict, our mission is to shine a light on history's darkest crimes. Every week we bring you a new episode of Midnight Verdict, a chilling audio drama that plunges you into the heart of a mystery. Our writers weave a haunting narrative, bringing the victims and witnesses to life as we examine forensic evidence, conduct mock interviews, and explore new theories. And now for a special treat, a never-before-heard bonus segment exclusive to this platform. Crackling fire, wind howling outside a cabin. Isolated deep in the woods sits a cabin bathed in the ethereal glow of a single lantern. Inside, a group of friends huddle around a table, sharing ghost stories and sipping hot chocolate. Suddenly, one of them falls silent, staring directly into the flames. "I never should have come here," he murmurs, his voice tight with fear. The others exchange uneasy glances. They know the legend of the haunted cabin, but none have ever witnessed anything supernatural. Until now. As the night wears on, the cabin's shadows seem to deepen, whispering tales of tragedy and despair. Just beyond the firelight, unseen eyes watch, waiting for their moment to strike. Will the friends survive the night, or will they fall victim to the cabin's sinister secrets? Tune in to find out. And if the ghosts of Hinterkaifeck still send chills down your spine, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more Midnight Verdict mysteries, because some crimes refuse to stay buried.